Hello there, Uncle from Tactical Gamer here, and I am just creating another mission making tutorial video on how I created this shoot house for one of our training missions. And this is what it looks like from the outside, and let me run you through it real quick, and I'll point out the objects, and then I'll go into the script, show you the relevant bits of the script, and we'll wrap it up, because the idea here is that I want to show you guys how I did this so that maybe there could be some more of these made out by all you guys out there. Okay, so getting out of Zeus, how this works is it's got some instructions here. It's not really all that important, but I've marked off my shooting positions using a decal and a sawhorse barricade there. Just visual cues that this is somewhere you would need to stop when you're running through this course. Basically, you register in the course, start, move, and shoot drill, and it registers. It starts, basically, it's not really registering. It's running a client-side script on my computer now. That's and it tells everybody else that I'm the one that's active in the course. No one else would be able to run this script on their client because only one person can go through the course at a time. Once I pass by, it's hard to see here, there's a pen on the ground there. Okay. Once I get within 2 meters of that pen, then the script records the time that I pass by, and basically I get a sound, I start through the course, get up, and then there's another pen here on the ground. When I get there, it tells me to shoot from this position. I have to drop that target. You can see I actually have an add action up there on the left, quit and move and target drill, so I could quit at any time as well. Then I need to move through here, and then once I get to the next pen within 2 meters of this pen that's on the ground, then it's going to pop up this target. The reason I use pens for this, as I'll show you later, is that I could get into Zeus basically, and once I ran some people through this course, I could get into this Zeus and then grab those objects and move them around and vary the layout of the course without breaking the scripts and that sort of thing. And then what else this does is now it's waiting for me to get the station 3, which is just through here, and then another target's going to pop up, and I got to get prone, low crawl through here. The idea is basically just getting me winded and getting players used to the keybinds. Then on up through the back, where I'm going to get to the last station, which is going to pick 3 targets and pop them up in a random order. I drop those 3 targets, vault over here, and then it's going to take the time that I passed by here minus the time that I started back at the beginning of the course, and gives me my total time to complete. Now that would now allow another person to register in the course and start up again. Okay, so let's get into the script. Let's get into this. Let me show you some of those objects again. So now I'm in the editor. Okay, so this is what it looks like in editor. There is the data terminal that has the add action on it. Start, move, and shoot drill. Right, and then there's that sign there. The sign as well has the add action with all the instructions. There's a pen here. Start, move, and shoot drill pen. Okay, and the idea here is that I could move these things around and change up the course. This trigger does nothing other than detect if there's somebody in the course, and then if the player is close to 2 meters of this, then it's basically going to play the firing drill's finish sound, which actually should be the start sound. Course active. Okay. Other objects to note here are, as we saw before, there is a pen here on the ground. There it is. MS target 1 pen. So MS I called move and shoot. So move and shoot target 1. This is move and shoot target 1 itself. Alright, and then on through. As you would guess, here is a pen there for move and shoot target 3 pen, which once you get close to that, this target will then be animated to pop up. As you can see, they start automatically all popped up, and I'll show you how I animated these and then was able to keep track of whether or not they were hit, up, or down. Okay, to the script. Okay, so here is a look at the script that we are running. First thing it needs to do is check to see if somebody's already active in the course. We do that by using this variable. Move and shoot range active is always equal to false if there's nobody in the range. If somebody gets into the range, as you can see, it is set to be the name of the player that's in the range. So when somebody registers using the data terminal, they get set with their name in this variable, and then it gets made public to all the connected clients. So when this is false, then if it's not false, sorry, then it's going to display the hint and exit out of the script immediately, saying that somebody's already active. No pop equals true just basically means that the pop-up targets are not going to automatically pop up on their own. And this should be a global setting. As soon as somebody enters this range, all the targets in the entire mission should immediately stop popping up on their own. So if you knock them down, they're going to stay down. At the end of the script, I'm going to turn no pop equals false, so that all the pop-up targets will start to work everywhere else in the mission again. I just put an array with all the targets that are in the range, just so I can quickly go and check all of their statuses by using the variable all ms targets, and just cycle through each one of these. There's different patterns that the targets can pop up in at the end, so I just made each one of these as an array of possible patterns. So it just picks one of these at random and then just plays it out. Alright, next target is a variable that I'm using to keep track of where in the script I am as far as and where the player is in the range as to what event should happen next. Player start move and shoot time. Okay, so basically when they start the drill, this will no longer be 0, it will be the time that they started it. So the way that works is when you connect to a mission, or you connect to a server or start a mission, there's a timer that starts at 0, and your computer just basically counts the seconds that you've been active in that mission. So obviously when you start out playing, you start at 0. By the time you can actually do anything, you're probably already up to like 3-4 seconds, sometimes even longer depending on your computer, because you're sitting there looking at the screen while it's rendering, getting ready to actually put your boots on ground. Anyway, here's the message it's going to broadcast then that who is active. So 1% basically means who this variable here, move and shoot range active, which is the player's name. So it'll say the player name is active in the move and shoot target range. Okay, then it's going to remote exec, and this is what we're going to see. This remote exec is basically a way of making a hint. So let me start a new thing. If I wanted to say hint hello, okay, and run that, because this script is run by whoever walks up to that data terminal and uses that add action. So it's only run locally on that one computer. That's the nice thing about this whole script too, is that it's kind of just the only person it's going to affect is whoever's in the drill, right? It's going to have some other effects. There's some public variables going back and forth, which is going to create some network traffic, but otherwise it's minimal to anybody else. So this is why I used a remote exec, is because when you do a hint in this way, it would only run in this case on this one computer. I would see the hint if I registered in the course, but none of the other players would ever see it. So I want everyone to know that someone has registered in the course and has begun, and that nobody else they'll know that they couldn't register in the course. So in order to do that, I'm doing something using something called remote exec. And the way that works is this. If you already know this, fast forward. But I thought this locality stuff was the reason that these targets were hard to animate and track whether or not they were hit. So this is the whole purpose of this video. So remote exec works by doing something like this. I'm just writing out the syntax for that command. So remote exec, and then there's an array after that, which is there's a command that you want to run. Then there's locality, which is a number, so I'll just put it as 0 for now. And then there's JIT, whether it's join in progress. Now I'll explain what that means. First, the way this works is the command I want to run is hint. So that's what I would put in here. So instead of command, the command I actually want to run is hit. Okay. The parameter I want to be passed by that command is the message that we're going to send. So that is actually going to be, holy cow, hello. Okay. What I mean by locality here is if I put a 0 in this point, what it's going to say is then make this command happen on every connected client and the server. So on every machine that's on this network is going to run this command. Okay, if I put 2, then that is telling it to only run this command on just the server. Okay, which you would never want to run a hint on just the server, especially if it's a dedicated server, because no one's ever going to see it. What the join in progress thing is about is if I want someone to be able to join the mission 5 minutes later after this event, but I still need them to have seen that hint when they come in, then I can make this true, and then it will broadcast that hint to them when they join later. So I don't need that for my purposes in this today, so I can make that be false. That's how the remote exec kind of works. Okay, so if I go back to this other one, that's exactly what I've done here, except for I needed a message that had some formatting in it. I needed to put in the player name, so I used the format command to inject the player name into this message, and then ran the hint command displaying that message on the server, and it's not join in progress, persistent. Okay, cool. Now moving on. The next thing I do is that, remember I had that list of all move and shoot targets up here. Okay, so in here, for each and then all of those targets, I'm going to do everything in these curly brackets. And the way this works is, obviously I think I've explained this before, this X stands for each one of the values that are in all MS targets. So it'll grab the first one, MS target 1, which is what it's actually going to be here. So MS target 1, animate, and then just sets it in the down position. 1 is down, 0 is up. Okay, and then MS target 1, set variable, target status, down. So target status is just a made-up name for a variable I wanted, but I wanted to do this in such a way that I created, basically it's a public variable, and I haven't done that here, but I could have true and it would make it a public variable, but it still works for my purposes here anyway. So on the object, which is the actual target, I'm creating a variable, target status, and I'm setting its state to be, or its value to be down. Okay, and you'll see how that works later. So I do that, which puts each target down, and then I have a variable that stores what state it's in. Instead of me going and looking and asking each object to tell me what animation state it's in, I figured I'll just create a variable, and it'll be easier for me to track, and it might be more reliable, I don't know, but it was just easier for me to do it this way. Okay, so like I said, I'm not bothering with the quit option. Here is the loop that runs everything from there on out. So this loop runs the way this works, and it's very terribly inefficient way of doing this, but I was just trying to get it up and running. So while move and shoot range active, which we know should be the name of the player who registered or started up the course, equals my name do. So like I said before, the move and shoot range active should be the name of the player in the course. If for some reason something borked out and somebody else was able to register, or somebody got disconnected halfway through the course and someone else registered, the other player connected again, just to clean everything up, if these two things don't equal out, then you would stop running this script. Okay? Because at the beginning, like I said, it's going to be false. So if somebody quits, I make this variable to equal false again, and that means that this script will just stop running. That's how I control it. So then the next statement is just detecting whether or not, now that we know that somebody's registered with the course, have they gone past the start marker to start the time. Okay? And so if the player is a distance away from the start, move, and shoot drill pen, which we saw, and so they're less than or equal to 2 meters away, and also if the player's start and move shoot time is less than half a second, okay, because we set it to 0 up there before, so I just used half a second as just because. No particular reason. I could have said if player's start, move, and shoot time is equal to 0. I could have. Then player start, move, and shoot time equals time. So I'm just storing what is the current time on the server. Remember, it's counting in seconds. So if I'm 100 seconds into the mission, this is going to just be 100. Okay, that's the time that I started through the course. And then it's just giving me a hint that said go. Okay. Remember, next target was equal to 1. So then it's going to check this. Next target is equal to target 1. Yes, that would be true. And if the player is less than 2 meters away from the MS target 1 pen, so when they reach that first shooting station, then this will happen. They'll get a hint to tell them to shoot from that position. MS target 1, I'm going to take that target status, which was set to down earlier, and set it to up. And then I'm also going to animate that target, which is actually done down here. Okay. But here is where I'm creating the event handler that handles this. This is a crazy looking bit of code. So that's the part that I'm going to go back to this other screen and explain. So we saw how I did remote execute for a hint, which only has one parameter, right? The message that you're going to play. Let's say if I wanted to move a player to a different position. So if I had a command something like the set pause. Okay, and the position in the map is an X coordinate. So let's say 120, and then a Y coordinate, and then at a height of 0. So there's just a position I could move somebody to on a map. Okay, the difference with this is that there's two parameters for this command. One is the player, and the other parameter is where we're going to move them to. Set position is the command that we're actually running. So there's two parameters. So remoteExec works like this as well. Param and param. So for parameter, I'm just using these silly names, which is actually an array, so it needs to be in square brackets, right? Then it would be the remote execute, remote execute, and then the next array would be, right, the command. Okay, in this case, let's write it out. That would be set pause, which needs to be in quotation marks. Let's say I wanted to run this on, I knew that I wanted to move player number 4, so I only need to run this on his computer. That's not a really good example because set pause is kind of a global thing for most objects anyway, but I'm just getting at the syntax here, and it would be false for join in progress. Okay, so in this case, the first parameter would actually be in player, right? And then the second parameter would be the position, which is okay. So that's how remoteExec would work on that. This is fundamental to understand how I got to this. Okay, so here's my two parameters that I'm using. One is I'm creating an event handler So let's just look at this line only. Okay, I'm adding on I want to add the event handler on the target, but the target, now that we're running on a dedicated server, is owned by the dedicated server. Okay, that's where the target actually lives. I'm a connected client to that server, and so I would own the soldier that is me. If I got into a vehicle, then I would own the vehicle because I control the vehicle. If I had a group of AI that I would had control over, then my computer would be owning those AI because I have control over them, right? The target is controlled by the dedicated server. So when I added an event handler, it worked great while I was creating the mission, and then when I ran it on the dedicated server, it would never detect if it was hit because it's not run on my client. Couldn't run it on a player's client who was running the drill. I had to run it on the server. So that's what I'm going to do, is use remoteExec to add an event handler to detect when the target's hit and run on the server. So the command would normally be this: on that target, add an event handler. So if it is hit, then it's going to do this code. Okay, and this code is basically using that target status variable that I put on the target and change it to hit, and then I'm making it a public variable to broadcast it back to the client that's running this script, so that this script will know that the target has been hit. So that's how this line goes. But to put this line into a remote execute so that I can run it from the client script and then have it executed on the server is how this works. So basically, remember, I've got param 1 and param 2. Okay, so param 1 is the MS target, right? Param 2 is all this stuff that comes after the command. It's really that simple. So that's all this array is here, is MS target 1, my first parameter, and then all of this stuff, which is my second parameter, I'm calling remote execute add event handler. I'm running it only on the server, and doesn't need to be join in progress. Simple enough. Cool. Okay, now back to my script. So it tells you to shoot. It sets the statuses up. It then creates the event handler on the server. It sleeps for just a second, just to give it a little bit of time, so once you get there, the target's not already popping up when you haven't had a chance to turn your head and see it. Then it's going to animate the target up, and then it's going to say that the next target we're waiting for is target 2. What happens then is hopefully the player shoots the target, the server detects the hit, changes the value of target 1, target status, to be hit. Right, and that's how at the end of the script I'm going to detect all the targets hit. It basically just repeats this for target 2, repeats the same thing for target 3. Now target 4 is a little bit different because there's 3 targets at the 4th station. Okay, then it just checks to see how many targets are hit. It's basically just a loop, so that if next target equals targets completed, then it's going to run this loop and just count how many targets are shot. So targets status equals target status plus 1. It just counts from 0, and every time one of these targets is marked as hit, then it adds 1 to this, and then down here it checks if target's status is greater than 5, which would be all 6 targets have been hit. Okay, oh yeah, so this is already target status have to be all done before it checks this condition that you are within the end, and then it basically cleanup equals true, which is going to run this stuff and just clean all that variables up. It's going to tell you that you've finished the drill. Then it's going to set the move and shoot range active back to false, declare it as a public variable and tell everybody about it. Alright, then it's going to put all the targets up. It's going to put the target status into what I called auto, which I should make true as well, because I've been using public variables, so I want to make sure I clean them all up. And then I remove all event handlers on all those targets. So it just remove all event handlers of the type hit for each one of those. So I use the remoteExec again because they're all on the server. And then that's it. We cleaned it up. So I hope that's clear. That seems a little rambly to me, but there you go. Go forth and make some drills.